Hey guys, welcome to Money Talks News, the podcast making you richer one day at a time. You know, my wife is a nurse practitioner. She's seen a lot of people recover from serious illness, along with many who didn't. And one thing she'd tell you, while proper treatment is important, so is a patient's attitude. People with a positive mindset often fare better than people with a poor one. Is the same thing true with money? I think it is. Yeah, of course, you do need knowledge to invest well and create wealth, but having the right money mindset can also help. For example, say you have a purpose in life, like making the world a better place. Can an altruistic purpose like that make you more successful? I think today's guest would say yes to that question. She's Nicole Stanley, founder of Arise Financial Coaching. Her passion is helping people build wealth so they can create goodness in the world. Hello, Nicole.
Hey there. I'm so happy to be here.
Is what I said correct, Nicole? Do you believe that positive mental mindset can help you be more successful?
I believe so. I think that there's a part of money that is emotional. It's your mindset. It's your attitude. A lot of people think that money is just about the math, where it's about the math, but it's also about your mindset. I think both are equally important.
Cool. I'm Stacey Johnson, folks. Along for the ride today, we have my co-host, Miranda Marquardt. Hello, Miranda.
Hello, Stacey. I'm excited about this because, as we know, most of what I do for money subsidizes all of the nonprofit work I do in my community. So super excited for this.
Cool. Also with us is our talented producer and sometimes contributor, Aaron Freeman. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, everybody. Hope we have a good show.
Let's get started. Nicole, before we dive in, fill us in on your background. You're a financial coach. So what is a financial coach and how did you happen to become one?
Great question. So financial coaching is new in the financial professional kind of space. A lot of people are used to having a financial advisor, somebody who helps you with your investments, or a CPA, someone who helps you with your taxes, where in the past decade or so, financial coaching has become increasingly more popular. And the reason is because people have a real desire for hourly financial professionals, people who aren't set on selling them some sort of financial product, but are more concerned with their financial progress. It's kind of like hiring a health coach for your fitness training where, yes, we could all read a book about how to lose weight or how to get more fit. It's the same thing with money. There's no shortage of financial information out there, but there is a shortage or a difficulty between financial knowledge and financial action. And that's where a financial coach can come in. Somebody who's unbiased, somebody who's there to help you become the best financial version of yourself possible. So financial coaching has been a growing industry, and it's something I didn't know existed until about 5 years ago. I started my financial journey when I was newly married and I was really anxious about money, like cue me crying on the way to my wedding because of a financial inconvenience. My financial stress was really in the driver's seat of my life. And it wasn't until I had a couple kind of breakdown moments where I looked at my new husband and said, if we can't plan this wedding, we can't budget for it with our friends making the cake and, friends taking some pictures and friends bartending, how are we going to afford a life? And that was when I decided that I was going to double down on getting a financial education and getting some mentorship so that I could improve my financial life. And from there, really, my whole life changed because I had believed that you were either somebody who was good with money or you were someone who was bad with money. And there was kind of not too much in between. And financial education was the first thing that showed me that I could play a part in that story and I could help decide, what my financial skills would be. And so after I had a financial transformation for us, we, paid off around $30,000 worth of debt in 10 months on an average annual income of $56,000 a year. We also hit our Coast Fire, that financial independence number of saving our first $100,000 in the stock market by age 27, which made us know that we would be able to retire even if we didn't add any money. It brought this relief and kind of this, relaxation in my personal life that made me want to start helping friends and family. So I didn't know that financial coaching was an industry, that it was booming, that people were looking for things like that. All I knew was that financial education and accountability changed my life. So I helped friends and family for free for a few years. When COVID hit, my husband, who was the sole income provider at the time, he got furloughed. And at the time I was helping a few people with their budgets. And I kind of Googled financial help, financial counseling, and I found out about financial coaching as an industry. That's when I decided to get more training so I could launch my own company, which I did in 2020 called Arise Financial Coaching. And since then, I've been able to help over 600 clients improve their results with money and their relationship.
When you were searching online, did Stacy Johnson come up in any of those searches?
He didn't, but you never know. I was kind of zoned in. Yeah.
So I hired a financial coach in 1986.
Did you really? That's probably the oldest I've ever heard of somebody finding a financial coach. Where did you find them?
Oh, I lived in Tucson, Arizona at the time. I think it was a referral, but I have no idea.
Wow.
But what is your academic background? What qualifications do you have that make you a coach?
I think that's a great question because financial coaching is right now an unregulated industry. So it allows people to, jump into the industry, learn about it. I always tell people that the majority of what I do is not math. It's not formulas. Like, people need help paying the bills that they have right in front of them. That's not typically something that I need to compare options and different future scenarios in. And so I studied business management in college, but since I've grown my business and since I've been able to help more clients, I've realized that I haven't used that degree as much as I would have thought that I did, because coaching is a lot more about people's behavior, helping them set up good habits, like I said, than those, complex financial, equations.
But how did you learn how to help people set up good habits?
Well, I think it started with having to figure out how to teach myself those habits. I grew up in a household where money stress was the main conversation. My dad was a software engineer for a company owned by Microsoft in the early 2000s. So he was making a really good salary. And for whatever reason, that didn't seem to quell the stress at home. My mom had a mental kind of stuff that she was going through. And so I saw this constant push and pull between spending more than you had and not seeming like you could ever make enough. So I learned at a young age that it wasn't necessarily about how much money I would make, but it was about what I did with it. And so I think for me, I had to learn, okay, I need to figure out how to budget. I need to figure out how I'm supposed to track spending without wanting to pull my hair out. My husband was a youth worker when we first got married, and I was a stay-at-home mom. So our income was not rolling in the Benjamins. I had to figure out how to be creative. And so at the time, I had undiagnosed ADHD. I look back and it's very clear. But I started creating budget systems because I wanted to figure out how I could do this and not kind of inherit that same stress I saw my parents have. So I created an automated budgeting system that's kind of my favorite thing that I've gotten to do. And just doing that alone with clients is extremely life-changing because clients who don't have ADHD, they still experience forgetfulness, having a hard time following through, so it kind of all started with that budget system and teaching people that. And from there, learning, okay, what else can I focus on? What is a financial skill? How do I help someone master a financial skill, right? How do I help them become a good decision maker when they're taking on debt or when they're getting out of debt? There's kind of, it's kind of like an addiction, right? Once you see people improve their financial life, you're like, okay, what more can I learn how to teach them? And that's kind of at least how my own.
Do you help people pick investments? I'm a little confused about what exactly it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So I don't help people pick investments because I don't manage anyone's investments. That's someone who's a financial advisor. So I focus on monthly cash flow for people, which is often their biggest path to wealth. A great way to put it is a financial advisor shows you how to invest, where a financial coach helps you find the money to invest, which is kind of the more important part.
How much does it cost to have a money coach?
So the industry is very, kind of widespread. You can find someone for as low as maybe $50 an hour, and you can find financial coaches who charge thousands, right? It's one of those things.
How much do you charge?
It really depends on the product or the program that people enroll in. I have some group offerings and I have one-on-one offerings. And as my business has grown, I have a few more team members. So it varies based on which team member you use as well. But it can be anywhere from $1,000 to about $5,000, depending on how long we work together and at what capacity. So I think that's actually one of the best parts about coaching, is that because you're working with real people, you're not working with financial kind of like equations. You're finding out what's really holding somebody back. So a lot of financial coaches offer an initial session that's a standalone. At least that's what I've seen in the industry. And the point of that session is to uncover what's really holding that person back, right? Because often when somebody's in the midst of financial stress, they don't always know what the culprit is. Is it really their income? Do they make too little for what it costs for them to live? Is it their spending, right? Do they spend more and they need to get their spending in check with things that are totally in their control? Or do they have plenty of money to accomplish their goals? They just have a money management problem, right? So kind of one of the first things you do in coaching is you dive into somebody's numbers, all of their expenses, their spending history, and you help discover, okay, what is the true culprit here? That's one of the most valuable pieces of information for people. And like I said, when you're kind of in the weeds of it, you don't always see what is your true issue.
Can you do
right?
that like in an initial visit, or does this take
Yeah.
like a week to figure out?
So when somebody usually engages with a coach, we do require prep work where we have them put in their spending for the past year. We have some data points, like we look at their net worth, and we ask about their money habits so that we understand what's really going on. Sometimes it can be like couples dynamics as well. I would say that a lot of times it can be couples dynamics. And, we have a lot of couples who are not just seeing us as financial coaches, but they're also seeing a couples therapist, right? Because money is just one symptom of what's going on between them. And so a lot of times people hire a coach because they know they've been trying the things, right? I want to save. I want to pay off my debt. Why isn't this happening, right? I've looked online. I've done the Google searches. I can't seem to do it, or I'm not making as much progress as I'd like to. I'd like to bring someone else in here to help me do this better.
Interesting. Now, so how often are you meet? I assume that you're not meeting with all these people in person.
I do everything virtually. So I've had
Yeah.
clients all over the world because I just think it's easy to hop on a Zoom call. That's the great thing of like starting your business in COVID. But yeah, we meet over Zoom, and we typically meet. So I do an initial call with someone where we do a longer investigation, and I call that my empower session, where we figure out what's really going on. That's where they do the prep work. I analyze it, ask some follow-up questions before the call, and then we spend that call strategizing, what is the financial path what they want to take. Because just because I have something on paper that looks good doesn't mean that that's a plan that they want to follow, right? They may want to pay off their debt, but they might want to pay it off a little bit slower. They might want to still enjoy time with their family, and they want to figure out if they can do both. They might be behind on retirement and they want to focus on that. So really, financial coaching is about helping customize a good kind of spending plan with their monthly cash flow to help them get there. So we spend that first session making our plan, figuring out what the real problem is, and coming up with our action list of what are the things that we're going to accomplish in the next 6 months that are actually going to move the needle for you. Because you can do a Google search and you can see, how do I improve my money? And there's hundreds of things that you can do, but that doesn't mean that they're all equally important to you. So, or going to move the needle as much in your life. So after that kickoff session, some people take that plan and they just run with it. We've had plenty of people take that first session, implement the plan, and make huge changes. Where other people say, okay, I'm looking at this plan and I'm super overwhelmed and I want some help doing it because I don't see myself doing it. And then those would be the people who might want to find out about doing a continued coaching program. From there, we meet typically every week for the first 4 to 6 weeks because I help them set up that automated budget system. And then after we do that, we meet every time that they get paid, which is usually every 2 weeks, to help them close out every paycheck and move to the next one and overcome the obstacles that they're hitting along the way.
Interesting. And so what is the length of a typical relationship you would have with one of your clients? In other words, does it take 3 months? Do people do it for years? How does it work?
I think it all depends on the client. I try not to be the one who kind of dictates that because everybody's journey is different and everybody might need something different. So I've had clients work with me as short as the one session, where I have other clients who I've worked with since I started because as they've achieved their goals, right? You kind of come to a financial coach saying, well, if I could pay off my student debt, then my life would be great, right? But then it's, well, now I want to be able to save for a house and I want to invest more and I want to, build my savings or whatever it might be. So people's goals change and our relationship with money is lifelong. So my goal as the coach is to focus on the skills that they're learning, right? If I can give them the skills they need to be successful with their money, eventually they shouldn't need me anymore.
Interesting. And you basically charge by the hour.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I mean, it's programmatic based on how they kind of engage. But at the end of the day, we don't take cuts of anybody's anything. We don't take some sort of assets under management, which many consumers don't even know how to calculate those costs, right? And so part of what we do is helping people calculate the cost of the financial help they're getting and evaluate how they can make choices about that. So, yeah, I think it's a really fair way to charge people. And we're seeing that in the financial advising industry, that the consumer is learning that they don't have to pay so many fees to engage with a financial professional. And I think that's a really, really great thing that's happening to consumers.
Interesting. We could do this entire podcast just on being a financial coach or getting a financial coach. Let me ask you something, Miranda. What do you? I assume you've heard of this before, but what are you thinking about this? Is this something that you would find yourself doing or could have in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing about financial coach goes back to kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier is where do you kind of get that mindset first, and how do you figure out how? I think it's one of those things that has a really great place in like the hierarchy of financial help, financial advice, where if you are struggling to figure out how to overcome your past money story, if you are struggling to figure out, like Nicole said, where do I find the money to invest? We're not even to the point where what am I going to invest in yet? Where do you find that money? How do you get that budget help? How do you, and then how do you find somebody who can provide you with that emotional encouragement and support? Because one of the things that we all have learned is that money isn't just numbers, as Nicole said. It involves a lot of emotions. It involves a lot of coping mechanisms. And there's a lot of difference there. So I think a coach can be in there and help you figure out what matters to me and guide you in that aspect of it, where I talk a lot about like values-based financial decisions, and a coach can help you guide you through those activities to help you determine that. And it's pretty much, we've talked about this in the past when you're looking for a financial advisor or another financial professional, or even if you're looking for a guru to look up to, so-called guru to look up to, where are you at in your financial life? And who has where are you going to find the best tools to help you with where you're at now so you can graduate onto the next phase? I would hope that with a good financial coach, you don't stick with them like forever, right? The idea is to graduate on to the next phase.
Yeah. Now, but would you use a financial coach yourself? Now?
I probably could have found good use in one 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Probably would have been good.
Let me ask you this question too, Nicole. Since this is an unregulated industry and you don't really have to have any academic any degrees or anything like that to get into it, anyone can call themselves a financial coach, right?
Yeah.
So how would you, what advice would you give to people who are looking for one? In other words, how do I vet this potential financial coach, since virtually anyone can be one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think people should be extremely picky about who they work with financially. And so if you are somebody who is wanting to get help with your money, please don't go with the first person you talk to. Do some Google searches, look at reviews, look at client testimonials. Many good coaches who are worth their weight in gold can give you referrals of people who have actually worked with them. Interview them, right? Don't just read their websites. Get on the phone with them. Ask them specifically what you're hoping for help with and how they've helped people in the past do that. See what other, like I said, the past clientele they've had, how long they've been in business, because similar with a health coach, right? Anybody can call themselves a health coach, but one, the right health coach for everyone is not the same person. And two, you want to work with somebody most likely who has experience helping people overcome the problems that you've had, not just somebody who says they're a financial coach, because the range of kind of how people focus is so vast that you don't want to be, kind of picking out of a hat, if that makes sense. Most people who go with, let's say, me and my team, we focus a lot on the experience of financial stress and anxiety. I was somebody who, when I first came into the financial world, I was really drawn to thinkers like Dave Ramsey. And what that actually kind of did in me subconsciously is I became very obsessed with this idea of like saving is good and spending is bad. So when I finally did get out of debt, I still had this deeply unhealthy relationship with money, so much so that, I booked a vacation with my family and I had a panic attack when I had plenty of capital to spend on it. I had, I was debt free. I had done all the things I quote should have done, but my relationship with money was deeply anxious. And so often we find that people typically pick coaches who have either overcome the same struggles that they're going through or have helped people overcome the struggle that they're going through, because it's not just kind of one problem that everybody has.
Did you just say Dave Ramsey is unhealthy to listen to?
No.
I just want to make sure that we get that.
We did a whole episode on that. We'll link it.
Well,
we'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, well, he's actually the perfect example of a financial coach, because that's exactly what he does. He is essentially saying, hey, I have a path for you. Follow this path. I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to get up here. I'm going to cut credit cards and I'm going to scream on stage with chains, right? Like he's doing a whole emotional bit, which again, he's doing it to the masses, but he's a great example of a financial coach can help you. Many people would look back and say, hey, Dave Ramsey might have helped me on my path. A lot of people might say he actually hurt me more than he helped me. But regardless, right, he's focusing on that behavioral aspect to help motivate people.
Interesting. Now, and one might also ask, why not read a book that has all the same information in it to motivate you, or watch Dave Ramsey, or listen to his podcast or his radio show, whatever he does.
Do it. I always tell people, everything that I'm going to teach you is freely available on the internet. It's not about the giving of financial information. There's no shortage of that. It's about the gap between knowing what you should do and actually doing it. That can be the gap that takes people 20 years to overcome. And that's what we're trying to fix with financial coaching.
That makes sense. Okay, let's go ahead then. We're 24 minutes into our podcast. Let's hit the topic that is in here. Although I actually want to make this podcast really about financial coaching because I think it's interesting.
I think we should.
Yeah,
because that's what we've talked about. I
mean, and we will.
We could change the name of the podcast. We could change the title.
Yes, let's go ahead though and talk about how purpose can help you in your journey. And that's really what we are going to talk about, right? Because the way I introduced you, you're a person who wants to create wealth to help other people. Did I say that right? I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
Well, I think that money is a tool that helps you do things in the world. That can be good things or it can be bad things. I believe that most people are inherently good-natured. And so when you can help people get control of their money, they're often able to do more good in the world, right? Because they have more choices, autonomy.
So, but do you think that having an altruistic purpose can make you more successful as an investor or as a creator of wealth?
I mean, I think that's kind of a broad question. I think that people are typically more motivated by purpose than they are by numbers in a bank account, especially with women, right? Often there's kind of this stereotype that women aren't as interested in money as men, when I think that's total crap, because women are actually very concentrated and interested in improving their life, improving the lives around them, but they don't often get taught how to use money as a tool to make that happen. And so I believe that when people connect their financial goals to their personal life goals, they're going to find a lot more traction with their financial goals, because most people don't feel that excited about, hey, do you want to see X amount in your savings account? It's kind of like, that'd be nice. Great, right? But it's more about the connection to, what do I do with that? How does that help my kids? How does that help my community? How does that help me, right? That I feel like is a real kind of untapped secret of what money should be doing in people's lives, is connecting them with their purpose.
Give me an example of this. I need lots of examples of these things. So what we're talking about here is creating a new attitude toward money, right? Isn't that what your main things you do?
One of them, yeah, totally.
Okay, so give me an example of how you've done that for somebody.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first kind of thought is I typically don't like to share too many personal details about my clients, but I will say that in my own life, I saw my dad really stress about retirement. And I saw that really impact pretty much everything. My dad spent a lot of time telling me that I needed to become an attorney and I needed to or become a doctor or something like that, because the American dream was something that isn't really attainable. And I watched my dad kind of go through life with that mindset of that money is kind of the thing coming to get you versus the thing that helps propel you. And so for me, I didn't want to carry that same stress in my life with every decision, where I sent my kids to school, where I live in my life. I wanted to be able to use money as a tool instead of have it be this kind of bad guy in my life. And I think that's ultimately what financial education is about. It's about using money as a tool and not kind of treating it like this nebulous thing that you can either, it's like the luck of the draw, right? And so that is probably one of the main ways that I've been able to change that in my life, right? Because connecting with that purpose is not about numbers in the savings account. For me, my retirement account is I never have to look at my future like my parents did. And that is a different type of life I get to give my children.
But okay, let's say that you have a person who's, and actually, I'll use my father. He was the same type of person. He felt like if you got rich, you did something wrong to get there.
Yes, yeah.
And
Must
so,
be nice.
and the Bible, easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to gain entrance to the kingdom of God.
Yes.
These are things that I was brought up with, and I got it from my dad. Okay, so how would you take my dad or me, and how would you change that? How would you create a better attitude toward money? Specifically, like what would you do if I was that guy?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to say you'd have to want to change, right? I don't see myself as like changing someone. I see myself as helping someone make changes in their life that they want to make. But I really identify with that. I grew up Roman Catholic. I still am Roman Catholic. So I know, those scriptures, money is the root of all evil. That's what I thought, but it's actually the love of money, right? I think that at the end of the day, right, we can either choose to feel like we have control over something and it's something we can learn how to do, or we can always be a victim of something. And I think that for some people, the victim mentality, like, again, there's real societal harms. I don't want to say that it's victim versus ownership, but kind of in the scenario of how can I improve my situation? I think that at some point, part of that is not hating money and seeing money as a neutral tool, right? It's an amoral object. It does not hold something good. It does not hold something bad, right? Money kind of takes on whoever's holding it, right? If it's a villain holding it, then money is going to be used for bad things. But if it's someone with good intention, money can be used to do so much good in the world. And so I think people have to connect with themselves and what they want to see happen in the world. And that becomes an easier way to kind of stop hating money so much. Because if you can connect with, wow, I actually could trust myself, right? I'm not going to get money and then blow it on something stupid, right? I'm a responsible person. I'm actually going to put my money towards things I care about, right? Like it's kind of this snowball of kind of distancing yourself from that narrative that money is a bad thing, or it's somehow if you have too much money, you just automatically become evil, because you're actually still writing your own story.
And to kind of circle back to the topic for today, we were talking about how your passion is helping people build wealth so they can create goodness in the world. And if you think about what we were just talking about, that money's the root of all evil, that whole attitude that we were brought up with.
Yep.
That maybe if you start focusing on doing something altruistic with money, helping people with money, then it makes it more acceptable for you to build wealth.
I think so. That I think is one of the things that particularly women really connect with is, the personal finance world has been very centered around male kind of messaging, because it's been something in the male community where women are motivated by other things. And so I think that if we can talk to women about the things that their wealth can help them do in terms of community, impact, values, their children, that's what helps women, kind of start to distance themselves, that, money isn't the root of all evil, because I can trust myself.
So what do you think? Do you guys want to get a financial coach? I guess
I married
hopefully we
one.
don't need a financial coach.
I married one.
I would hope if you
Yeah,
guys
you
are
did.
running
You
this
did,
show,
actually.
you probably don't need one.
Yeah. I don't know, Miranda. I think you could use one.
I'm doing okay right now. Like I said, maybe 20 years ago, but today I'm okay.
Yeah, I could use one when I was in my 20s for sure.
Me too.
I got one when I was in my 20s. And it did help me, actually, although it was expensive. And it's like, it's like lots of things in life. I've written several books, and basically everything that I wrote in a book has already been written many times.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it helps to sit down in front of somebody and have them make you accountable and help you change your attitudes toward money. I mean, even now, even today, I sometimes have to remind myself that I deserve the wealth that I've achieved. Because I was raised not to think that because my dad was like, that son of a bitch over there, there's a guy in a mansion. Well, he cheated somebody to get that money, and now I'm somebody who's carried that attitude around, and I still, to this day, at the age of 69, I still have to remind myself that I deserve the things I've gotten, and maybe a money coach would help me do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we're out of time. And I don't know if we really got around to our actual topic, but it was a really good conversation about the purpose of a money coach and whether or not one can help you.
I was going to say, I don't know. I think a lot of your friends try to coach you. Every time we come around, you tell us how much money you have, and we all go, well, why don't you buy a boat? Why don't you buy a car? And we're trying to coach you. We're trying to coach you into buying things.
Yeah, Aaron and his wife are friends with my wife and I, and so we do spend a lot of time together. And yes, people do. Actually, you don't do that, but a lot of people do. Come on, if you're so rich, where's the yacht?
Yeah.
And that makes me feel guilty too. I'm just riddled with guilt here, Nicole. I don't know what to do.
I know, it's so hard. I feel you.
No.
I've been in the same place, and I can imagine that it's never going to be something that I'm fully, quote, over, right?
Yeah. So if I want to get a coach, if I want you to be my coach, how do I reach you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram. We post free financial content daily for professional women, couples, small business owners. And then you can also go to our website. It's www.arise.financial. And you can find out more about our services and sign up for our free classes and resources.
Cool. I'm afraid we are out of time, though, folks, but we are never out of topic, as you can tell, because we're always joining on. Dig a little deeper. You're going to find links to lots more info in our show notes. And remember, if your goal is to make more, to spend less, to retire rich, well, your online home is moneytalksnews.com. And don't forget to check out Miranda's online home as well. That is Miranda Marquit, MARQUIT.com. And, of course, you can visit Nicole at her website. That is it's Arise Financial?
Arise.financial.
Arise.financial.com. Is that right?
No, .com.
Just arise.financial. We got all that dot stuff now. You can just pretty much do what you want.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, folks, if you liked what you heard today, then do us a favor and like our podcast, follow us, tell your friends, do everything you can to make us more successful because we deserve it. and thanks again for being with us, Nicole. It was an awesome day, and I hope you will come back and see us again.
Thanks, Stacy.
I'm Stacy Johnson.
I'm Miranda Marquit.
I'm Aaron Freeman.
Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. We're going to see you right here next time.